Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. As the strangest election season of your life limps along, we're now here on a Thursday, July 18th, facing the prospect of one of the guys maybe stepping down soon. The other guy has survived impeachments, indictments, felony convictions, an attempted assassination attempt, and probably even double secret probation. Here to make some sense of it is my first guest, Evan Sayet, satirist, comedian, author. Welcome back to the show. Is this just the weirdest election cycle or what?
Oh, I think it's the weirdest election cycle in history.
So the first news I want to talk to you about, something I haven't even mentioned yet, there's so much going on. We're told that Biden has COVID. Now, I went and looked it up. And it turns out last night he was supposed to give some speech somewhere, and he was half an hour late. And so people started making some phone calls, and then he was an hour late, and they were talking to the handlers. Is he going on? Yeah, he's going on. He's going on. Yeah, we're just running a little behind. After an hour and a half, they said, no, he has COVID. He can't do it. So, well, it sounds like they changed their story in the middle of it. I don't even think he really has COVID, Evan.
It's so sad that we are so cynical, but, you know, the Democratic Party deserves our cynicism. You know, just the other day, and I think it was maybe perhaps yesterday or the day before, he was asked, what would make you change your mind? And he said, well, if I had a medical condition, if there was something medically wrong with me. And then the next day or 2 days later, there's something medically wrong with him. So perhaps this has been set up this way because everything I'm seeing, everything I'm reading, everything I'm hearing says he has only a couple more days left in his campaign.
Well, it's so strange to turn on MSNBC because I have him on one of my monitors in here. They're calling for him to step down. They're all just openly saying, well, it's just a matter of time before he steps down. And they don't even know. They're just trying to just talk it into existence. But they've started doing the things that they've always done to Trump, where when they use the still photos for B-roll, it's like of a bad angle or him making a stupid face or he has a funny expression or he's falling down or whatever. They have completely turned on this guy.
Indeed, including Scarborough, you know, who is not only a leading MSNBC voice, but a personal friend of Joe Biden's, and even he has turned on them. The political left has no loyalties. They have no loyalty to country. They have no loyalty to God. They have no loyalty to family. So it's unsurprising. And by the way, notice that none of them are talking about what's good for the country. They're all checking the polls to see who has a better chance of winning so that the Democrats can stay in power. And what's funny is this is the party that says that we have to vote for them because they're going to save democracy. And yet they were covering up the fact that an unelected cabal had been running the government. Then they fudged the primary rules so that he would be uncontested. And now that they've been exposed as incapable, now they're going to go against the Democratic votes of their own primary voters, of their own party.
Well, Evan, I'm going to go ahead and steamroll further down the hill because you look at the electoral map, and if the election happened today within the margin of error, dude would flip 6 states, and I think it's going to get worse than that. I think we're about to run into a landslide.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. And, you know, it's certainly not just negative Biden and we're afraid of the Democrat Party. President Trump has shown himself repeatedly to be the kind of leader that America desperately needs: strong, resilient. When one candidate is felled by a cold, by a virus, and another one isn't even felled by an assassin's bullet, you know, when you're looking for strength, when you're looking for direction, when you're looking for a leader, nothing could be more impressive than Donald Trump over the last several months. So
I was interested to see if the media would change their tune on all the histrionics on Trump after they got him, you know, shot at by calling him Hitler, by calling him Nazis. They've stopped using the term Hitler and Nazi, but they're still full bore on the idea that this is the end of the republic if this guy gets reelected. I don't think they've really learned their lesson and tamped down their rhetoric all that much.
Well, I don't think there's any lesson for them to learn. I mean, one thing that I argue in my new book about atheism is that the political left does not and cannot argue for anything in the affirmative. They can't tell you why you should vote for them. So the only strategy that they have is to make sure that you think the other side is beyond the pale. And so even going back to Mitt Romney, who Charlemagne the God called one reusable bag away from being a Democrat, and Joe Biden said he wants to put you all back in chains. You know, it's not just Trump that they're calling Hitler. Bush was Hitler. Reagan was Hitler. Nixon was Hitler. Eisenhower was Hitler. Because the Democrat Party, how can they argue in the affirmative? What policy can they affirm? Open borders? Defunding the police?
Not inflation, right.
Right, not inflation. So the only thing they have is demagoguery.
Let me ask you a tough question here, because my mind is not settled on this local issue where there's a policeman on the Dallas police force who made a post, and it's the same thing you've seen 1,000 other places. I wish he had better aim. Do you think a cop should keep his job after a post like that, or should he just be demoted to where he doesn't deal with the public, or could this be a learning lesson to prove that we're not the fascists and they're the cancel culture people? Like, where would you stand on that cop keeping his job?
Yeah, I'm totally torn on this because cops do have First Amendment rights. On the other hand, they have duties and responsibilities to protect the entire community. And so if you are exhibiting hatred for half of your constituents, or if this is Dallas, likely more than half of your constituents, how can you have faith that when you call this person, he's gonna care more about your survival than he does about Donald Trump's? So I'm torn. I think he has the right to say what he wants to say, but I think the police department has the right to reassign him.
All right, maybe you should just work rotating the tires on all the cop cars in the garage. You're not going to be taking calls anymore. I know that's not an easy one. I feel such a gray area. I wanted to ask you about it too. Evan Sayet, thank you very much for being on the James Show again. How can they find your work outside of WBAP?
Well, everybody should go to Amazon.com and look for my new book. I know you like my first book even better, but all three of them are there, and they explain how the modern liberal thinks and why it is they're wrong about everything.
All right, Evan Sayet, go to evansayet.com or Amazon and look him up, Sayet. Thank you very much, Evan.
Of course.
All right, I want to hear from you, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I have highlights from the RNC coming up, and we're also going to be asking the question, come on, does Biden really have COVID, or was he just ducking out of an event yesterday because he was sundowning? He was having an episode. He was getting all short-circuited and stuttery. 800-288-9227. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. So much going on right now, as if the Republican National Convention isn't enough to have us give us 3 hours worth of content every day. We're still in the aftermath of the Trump assassination attempt. We still have the other presidential candidate who everyone wants him to get out on his side, except for like 4 people, and they're all related to him. And we're trying to parse it all out because the reverberations are being felt down here in North Texas. We were talking about the Dallas cop that's under fire for saying he wishes the shooter had better aim. So did a lot of your liberal friends. To make some sense of this, let's welcome back Victoria Churchill to the show. She's with right now with the New York Post swing state team. And listen, I was looking at the electoral map, and if the election were held today, 6 states would flip, Victoria. 6 states.
Yeah, absolutely. There's polling that was just released, I believe it was today, by Emerson College that shows Joe Biden trailing in just about every single swing state that we are covering. So, if you're Trump campaign, that's good news. If you're the Democrat Party and any of their leaders that want to get rid of Joe Biden, that's probably a great thing that you can bring up to him as you're meeting with him and members of his family and those in his inner circle. And if you're Joe Biden, that's really, really, really bad news for you.
What do you think the response in the just first, 48 hours of knowing JD Vance is the vice presidential candidate. What's your first take on that?
Well, I think, obviously he's got a track record that has kind of elevated his position. I think that's really brought him to his point, which is, obviously his experience with the book that he wrote, which then got made into a film, Hillbilly Elegy. That's really what introduced him to, I think, a lot of people in America. And then as well as his campaign and his first few months of being a United States Senator. But I think really beyond that, I don't actually think he's that much of a known entity. And so I think there's going to be a lot of digging, a lot of background that folks are going to be doing on him. I think the biggest attack that we've seen from the Biden-Harris camp on JD Vance so far has been that he's just a carbon copy of Trump. I think that's probably fair. That's probably an accurate ideological representation of where Vance stands on policies. I think he's not necessarily a traditional conservative. I think he definitely does embrace kind of some populist arms of the party. And I think this is a discussion that lots of folks were having in the beginning of what kind of vice presidential nominee would Trump pick. There was things going around that he didn't necessarily want to actually pick a successor for the party or for his legacy or for the MAGA agenda. And it really seems that he has, in fact, kind of made those considerations in picking his vice presidential nominee.
Well, this is a fun question here, Victoria. We know that Donald Trump had his speech written for tonight, and then it got rewritten after the attempt on his life on Saturday. This could be a speech that we end up playing sound bites from here to the rest of our lives. What are you expecting out of this tonight? What do you think he changed?
Well, again, I think if we take his pick of J.D. Vance as a vice president, I think that may give us some indication of where his mind is at. I think he is really looking to secure his legacy for the next generation and for generations to come. And I think he sees Vance as that next standard bearer of everything that Trump believes, ideologically, politically, policy-wise, but also kind of more of that personality wise, right? Like Vance didn't have any political experience until he ran for the U.S. Senate. So again, I think kind of that mold of a political outsider, which, initially encouraged Trump to run back in 2015, 2016. I think those are all experiences that he's probably going to channel. And again, has really channeled with Vance, with the pick of Vance as his vice presidential running mate. And, again, I think he's going to be talking about, where this country has been, where it's going, and how he and Vice President Vance, if he does end up being in the White House along with Donald Trump, how they can really usher in the future of America and how voters can support them in that by supporting them in this coming election.
Victoria Post, thank you Victoria Churchill with the New York Post. Thank you very much for being on the James Show again.
Thank you so much. Always a great time.
You can find her at NewYorkPost.com. She's a swing state reporter. She also works for Young Voices when it's not an election year. Good stuff. Thank you, Victoria. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Well, my next guest has been on fire as of late. Still plenty of fuel in her tank, I'm sure. And I don't know what to start with first. Raven Harrison's back on the show. Do we start with the Republican National Convention and what's going on with this week? Or maybe Trump's speech looking ahead tonight? Or do we talk about the idea? Here's what I want to start with, Raven, is we're told that Joe Biden has COVID. Really? Do you really think he had got a positive COVID test? Or are they just looking for an excuse to duck him out of the public for at least a week or so until they figure out what the heck they're going to do?
No, I do not believe that Joe Biden has COVID. I believe he has getting his butt kicked in the polls 2024. That's what he's got.
You're right.
He does not have COVID. I mean, I can't say for certainty, but I find that highly suspect. He was at an event in Nevada shaking the 6 supporters he has hands. So either he knew he was sick and he knowingly spread COVID to people, or he had no symptoms, in which case, why was he tested? So I'm going to go ahead and call BS on that, James.
Right. He didn't have a fever, Raven. They just noticed he was acting lethargic and he had a really runny nose and a dry cough. Yeah, I'm not buying it for a second.
No, he needs a Parkinson's test.
All right. I am starting to think he's going to be replaced and be replaced soon, because I am surprised at how anti-Biden MSNBC is now. They're doing the thing. Have you watched this, Raven?
Yes.
Because now when they show Joe Biden, they show him making a funny face or looking stupid or embarrassing himself. And it's what they do to Republicans constantly. They always have like a goofy look on their face in the still shot that they use for B-roll. And they're talking like it's a done deal. We're just waiting on the moment when Biden decides that he's going to step down. Wow. They've really decided that this guy is done.
No, they didn't. They're just trying to save their own necks. They are rats, fleeing the Titanic. They helped gaslight this. They've known this for 3.5 years. They've known that Joe Biden was impaired, all these gaffes, and they spent all their time gaslighting. So they're trying to save any scrap of journalistic integrity they have by acting like now all these revelations. They've been complicit in covering it up, and I am helping remind voters of that they have known all along. They helped put our country in this danger.
Oh, they've known. They've known. They've known that he's just as daffy as we were saying on this show the entire time. However, now that they realize this is not the best thing for the party, capital P, and if we hold on to this guy, we're going to lose. It's so funny watching how fast they throw this dude overboard and act like, wow, look how diminished he is.
Well, correct. And then again, they've got it. But remember, this is who they picked. This is who they've been saying was fit as a fiddle. They was, this is the one they've been propping up, Pelosi and all of them. So now they're changing their tune. Now they're coming in. Now they know. I mean, he couldn't win before. So this is the same problem they had. He was in his basement last time. They held him in the basement because they knew something was wrong with him. So everybody's on to it. And now with this failed assassination attempt, and him getting out there and being, the silver alert that he is of going, yesterday I was a black vice president, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. So now they're trying to backpedal and seeing how they can save this, but they know they're done. They know it's desperation and panic.
Here's something that gives you food for thought. He had his speech written already for the convention tonight. He knew he's going to be giving the keynote speech for months. However, since the shooting happened on Saturday, the reports are that he scrapped his old speech and rewrote it. What do you think he changed?
Well, I think he changed it in lieu of, before it was just trying to prove to people that all these charges that Biden had weaponized the government and the DOJ, we have overwhelming proof of that now. Have you heard these stories, James? Across the board, they're showing that they had anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour notice that there was an active shooter or somebody on the roof with a rifle, and they let him take the stage anyway. We've got the head of this dumpster fire, who was previously guarding Cheetos, who is now at the RNC getting a lot of flack from people of going, what happened? She doesn't want to answer, and Mayorkas is blocking her from testifying. And then you've got the sellout Republicans like Mike Johnson and the rest of them who have done nothing, who are going, oh, good, Trump, we have your back. You're way, way, way back, but we have your back. Of going, are you kidding me? So we're just watching it together. He's going to get up there and he's going to speak from the hip of going, this is what we have to fight against. Patriots, this is what I told you. They're after you, but I'm in the way. Proof positive.
Raven Harrison, we know the one side of the aisle is going to say this is the worst, most scariest speech ever, and the other side of the aisle is going to say that was a great unifying, inspirational speech. Do you think anybody is going to have their mind changed outside of the mainstream media?
I think it's possible. I think it's important, and it really rests squarely with the voters, because the important thing is, for all the rhetoric, James, on both sides, the reality is this: nobody ever took a shot at Biden or took a shot at Obama, or Clinton for that matter. So the proof is in the pudding. They stand, the MSNBC, they have no standing right now, because the reality is this has gone too far. The quest for power caused desperate people to take a desperate action, and Trump survived, thank God, but we lost one patriot, and we have one fighting for his life in the hospital right now because of this. This looks like an inside job. All the indications are that it's inside, which means, any Democrat or moderate, are you willing to vote for this? Are you willing to do people who are willing to go to this extent? Okay,
so let me ask you one more thing. You're sort of local ish, right?
Yes.
You're in the area, WBAP listening area. I know you're not in Dallas, but do you have any opinions on this Dallas cop that's under fire for saying the shooter should have had better aim? Because we've been talking on the show for about an hour or so whether or not this guy should keep his job. What do you think, Raven?
And I am in very close proximity to Dallas. I'm in, the Dallas area, but the issue is, I think he should lose his job. It is unacceptable. It doesn't matter to me whether he's a police officer, firefighter, president. You can't, freedom of speech does not protect hate speech or threats on somebody's life and things like that. We're in a really gray area, and I just think you're supposed to serve and protect. Would you want to know that your nurse or the police officer attending to your call has, if he disagrees with your politics, that's the kind of things that he says about you? This is somebody's father. It's somebody's husband. Did we lose our soul in all of this? I think absolutely he is right, and I'm shaming everybody on social media who are nurses and educators who are putting up that kind of rhetoric.
All right, there she is, Raven Harrison. How they find you outside of the James Show?
They can find me at theroarpack.com. They can find me at theroarmission.com and ravenharrison.com.
There she is. Thank you very much, Raven.
Thanks, James.
I don't want to make any assumptions. It's a 940 area code. All my 940 friends are Denton, but I know it's more than that. So I don't know. Anyway, RNC highlights coming up next. Look, you're going to hear, I don't even know if I'm going to play JD Vance. I really just want to play the reaction to JD Vance because it's so sensational and it's so ridiculous. They almost want Handmaid's Tale to be true. Like, they're just hoping for it. Like, can't someone try and control my uterus and make me dress like a ketchup bottle? It's hilarious. You'll hear it all next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What is this, cranberries? All right, so the RNC's happening. Tonight's the big night. The keynote, the big speech by Donald Trump. Look, I don't want to build it up. It doesn't deserve any more build up. We hadn't heard from this dude since he got shot in the ear. That was the last speech he gave in public. So, wow. Is this the longest we've seen this guy go without doing a public event since the campaign ramped back up? I think so. Rightfully so. Smartly so. And not to be too cynical or pragmatic here, but I think he's taken advantage of this opportunity here. He seemed to exert a little discipline after the debate when the narrative was talking about Biden's obvious mental decline. He didn't get out and do the Trump thing where he changed the discussion by getting everyone's attention. He let that roll. And then he smartly, I know it sounds kind of gross to say, well, we got to take advantage of that horrible thing that happened on Saturday. But if you want to look at it like that, letting it build up to this speech, to this moment, super smart. This is going to be a chance when maybe some minds could be changed. Now, not an MSNBC, no matter what they say here, it's going to be the worst thing ever. Look, let me just play you a little bit of JD Vance's speech, but not necessarily I don't want you to listen to the content, but does this sound like some scary hellscape, some guy that's about to put on Handmaid's Tale, or does this just sound like some dude from Kentucky who wants to be vice president? I mean, is this really that scary?
Now, it's one of the 10 poorest counties in the entire United States of America. They are very hardworking people, and they're very good people. They're the kind of people who would give you the shirt off their back even if they can't afford enough to eat. And our media calls them privileged and looks down on them. But they love this country not only because it's a good idea, but because in their bones they know that this is their home, and it will be their children's home, and they would die fighting to protect it.
Yeah. This is a great country full of great people who love this country. His home county is nice and poor, and he comes from humble beginnings. Not necessarily scary stuff, right? Well, yeah, you got to hear what Maddow took away from it. Did you know Lord of the Rings references that basically makes you a Nazi? I'm not making this up, bro. I'm
like Mr. Teal, who has named his companies after things in the Lord of the Rings series of J.R.R. Tolkien books. Lord of the Rings is a sort of favorite Cosmos for naming things and cultural references for a lot of far-right and alt-right figures, both in Europe and the United States. Peter Thiel names all these things after Tolkien figures and places, like his company Palantir, for example. Like his mentor, like Peter Thiel, who had given him all his jobs in the world, Mr. Vance also, when he founded his own venture capital firm with help from Peter Thiel, named it after a Lord of the Rings thing. He called it Narya, Narya, which you can remember because it's Aryan, but you move the end to the front. Apparently that word has something to do with elves and rings from the Lord of the Rings series. I don't know.
Okay, so Narya, I had to go look this up because I've seen Lord of the Rings, but it's been, 20 years or so. And I didn't read the books. I'm not all into the lore. But that last part, there's a kernel of truth in it. JD Vance has a company called Narya, Narya. And Rachel Maddow is correct in the fact that if you took the word Aryan, which obviously has white supremacist connotations, Hitlerian connotations, dare I say, and you take the N at the end of Aryan and you move it to the front of the word, that will spell Narya, but I don't think that's what JD Vance had in mind. I went and looked it up. What the heck's the Narya? The Narya is one of the three rings. Even if you haven't seen like Lord of the Rings, like there's a series of rings and there's one dude that's Lord of them. See where that comes from? Well, there's one big ring to rule them all. And then there's like a second class of rings. And one of those three rings is called the Narya. Not real scary stuff, right? We're talking about elves and hobbits and orcs and magic, shires and barefoot people running around doing magic spells. You see menace, you see fear. Oh, well, that's what those right wingers and alt-right guys, they all like to use those Lord of the Rings references. Oh, okay. So there's some people in this realm of the political spectrum that you don't like, that like they all like Lord of the Rings. So because he also said something that as a Lord of the Rings reference, and I'm supposed to think that's sinister? Bro, can you look at anything without getting scared? Does everything scare you? I mean, I get it. You're scared of CO2 being created. You're scared of car exhaust. You're scared of cows farting. You're scared of COVID. You're scared of breathing air. You're scared of being unvaxxed. You're scared of cops. You're scared of plastic straws. You don't have to pretend like you're scared of everything. Narya. It's just Aryan, but you take the N and move it. No one would have thought of that if you hadn't brought it up. And it doesn't just stop there. It's not like, well, look, he's making some of the same, cultural references that these other people you're supposed to be scared of. Who? Peter Thiel, the billionaire, the tech startup guy. Yeah, real scary. Anyway, what does this all mean? Well, it means JD Vance is the end of the republic. Really?
You can only pick a candidate as out there as JD Vance if you're really thoroughly quite sure that you're going to win, no matter what kind of craziness you put on the ticket and what you're going to bring into the White House with you. JD Vance is not the guy you pick to win over suburban women or whatever. He's not the persuade the undecideds guy. JD Vance is the guy you bring in to change the American system of government into whatever it is you think comes after us being a republic. And you only do that because you already think you have the election in the bag. What is coming together on both sides of the political spectrum right now is that Republicans who are thrilled to have it in the bag think they have it in the bag. And that's why tonight isn't Nikki Haley giving her acceptance speech. It's not, even Tim Scott or Marco Rubio. It is national abortion ban, end of the republic, JD Vance, who was giving the speech tonight.
Someone check on her. It is not healthy to get this scared, to be this scared all the time. I mean, she can't believe what she's saying, right? Because if she did, she'd be scared to go outside. I mean, just think if you took these people literally. Let me get this straight. Half of this country is Republicans, and Republicans hate everything that's not a straight white Christian male. So they hate women, they hate minorities, they hate non-Christians, they hate atheists, they hate the planet, they love global warming, all this horrible stuff. They're literally Hitler. You can't really believe that. She doesn't really believe. Does she really believe that? Well, it's the end of the republic. That's the only reason you would put someone like this on your ballot. It's because you were going to prepare for the end of the republic. Does anyone want to end the republic? Is that on anyone's platform? You know, the Republicans just voted and solidified their platform on Monday. I checked it out. It doesn't say anything about the dissolution of the Republic. And the big lesson is these people have not learned the lesson from Saturday, and that is you need to tamp down all this hyperbole about how these are the most dangerous people ever. They're literally Hitler. They're coming for you. They want to kill you. They want to grind you underfoot. They don't want you to have health care or food or anything. They're ripping children away from their parents. They're trying to genocide gay people and genocide trans people and genocide the Palestinians. Dude, they're not learning their lesson. She's sticking with it. Vance is the end of the Republic. I guess they didn't learn their lesson from Saturday, did they? 800-288-9227 if you have any comments. We will continue with highlights from the RNC next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.